Hey everyone, just a quick reminder. Only about 25% of you watching are subscribed to the channel. If you're enjoying the content, hitting that subscribe button would really help the channel grow. And while you're at it, smash that like button too. It helps a ton, and lets me know you're enjoying the content. Thanks for being here, and let's dive into the story. Look, I wasn't expecting much when I applied to work at the Google warehouse. I didn't even know Google had a warehouse. But the ad said, no experience required, $20 an hour, free snacks, and that was enough for me to click apply. I got the job within 5 minutes, which should have been my first red flag. I arrived at the warehouse on Monday, bright and early, clutching my complimentary Google tote bag. They sent it before I was even hired. The place was massive, rows of industrial shelves stretching toward the ceiling, stacks of neatly labeled file boxes, and absolutely no computers, just endless rows of paper. "Welcome to the team," boomed my new manager, Jerry. He was a balding man with a permanent twitch in his left eye. "You must be Steve. Great to have you, bud." Yeah. Hey, quick question. What exactly do we do here?" Jerry threw an arm around my shoulders and guided me down a long aisle. "Well, Google, as you know, collects a lot of data. And sometimes, well, some files just gotta be stored the old-fashioned way, you know? For security reasons." That didn't explain anything. But the break room had a 5-star espresso machine, so I didn't ask more questions. After showing me my locker, it already had my name on it, which was weird since I hadn't given my last name. Jerry handed me a laminated list of rules. Rules for working at the Google warehouse. Never touch the red folders. If you see a red folder, walk away and pretend it doesn't exist. If you hear whispering, ignore it. It's probably just Jerry. The night shift does not exist. If someone claims to be on the night shift, they are lying. Do not open any filing cabinets that are locked. They are locked for a reason. At exactly 2:17 p.m., take a 15-second break and look directly into the security camera. Smile. If you see a man in a gray hoodie standing in the aisles, politely say, "I do not work here." Then leave for exactly 7 minutes before returning. Always clock out. Always. I laughed. "Okay, good one. But what's the actual job?" Jerry just grinned. "You'll figure it out." He clapped me on the back and left me standing there. I looked at my first task. It was literally just moving boxes from one shelf to another. No computers, no scanning, no data entry. Just glorified stacking. I started working. And honestly, it was easy. My biggest challenge was not tripping over my own shoelaces. By lunchtime, I had already finished 2 full aisles. The break room had Google-branded sandwiches, which I didn't even know was a thing. This job was a joke. Until 2:17 p.m. rolled around. I was in the middle of placing a box labeled Deleted YouTube Videos 2012 onto a shelf when my Apple Watch buzzed. I glanced at it. 2:17 p.m. Then I remembered rule number 5. Shrugging, I turned and looked up at the security camera. I forced a smile. The second I did, the lights flickered. The buzzing of the fluorescent bulbs overhead turned into a low, droning hum. My ears popped. And then, just barely, I heard it. Whispering. Low, muted, like 1,000 voices mumbling just out of reach. I froze. Jerry did say to ignore it. But the whispers weren't stopping. They were getting closer. I turned back to my aisle. Someone was standing at the end of it. A man in a gray hoodie. I immediately remembered rule number 6. I do not work here. My voice was dry, weak. The man just stood there. He had no face. I didn't scream, but I ran. I ran straight for the break room, slammed the door shut, and checked my watch. I had 6 more minutes before I could go back. Jerry was sitting at the table, casually eating a Google-branded pudding cup. "Ah, first time seeing the gray hoodie guy?" he asked, not looking up. I nodded, panting. Jerry chuckled. "Yeah, you get used to it." What do you mean, you get used to it?" Jerry patted my shoulder. "Look, man, the rules are there for a reason. Just follow them and you'll be fine." He took another spoonful of pudding. By the way, you did clock in today, right? Yeah? Jerry nodded. Cool. Cool. He let that hang in the air for a moment before standing up and tossing his pudding cup in the trash. All right, break's over. Let's get back to work. I checked my watch. 7 minutes had passed. I stepped back onto the warehouse floor. The gray-hooded man was gone. The whispering had stopped. And the box I had been moving? It was back on the floor. I did not pick it up. I just went to another aisle and kept working. For the rest of the day, nothing weird happened. I clocked out exactly on time. But as I walked to my car, I saw something weird. A red folder, sitting on my windshield. I stood in the parking lot staring at the red folder on my windshield like it was a bomb. Rule number 1, never touch the red folders. Okay, but why was there a red folder on my car? Was I being tested? Did I fail some secret Google employee initiation, or was Jerry screwing with me? I looked around. The parking lot was empty. It was just me, my 2009 Honda Civic, and a folder that apparently shouldn't exist. I thought about ignoring it. I really did. But then, against all common sense, I grabbed the folder. Look, I panicked. I didn't want people thinking I was leaving weird top-secret Google documents on my windshield like some kind of corporate lunatic. So I figured, I'll just put it in the glove compartment and forget about it. Mistake. The second my fingers touched it, a car alarm went off. But it wasn't my car. It wasn't even coming from the parking lot. Somewhere, deep inside the warehouse, an alarm was blaring. The ground beneath me shook. The overhead lights flickered. And then, just as suddenly as it started, everything went silent. No alarm, no shaking. Just me and my horrible life choices. Nope. I threw the red folder into my passenger seat, jumped into my car, and sped out of there so fast I think I broke a few traffic laws. When I got home, I did what any responsible adult would do after experiencing something terrifying at work. I made a hot pocket and pretended it didn't happen. I told myself it was just some dumb initiation prank for new employees. I mean, Google does weird stuff, right? They have sleep pods, free massages, and an entire underground lair filled with backup servers. Who was I to judge? But then, my Google Home spoke. I hadn't said anything. It just turned on. Hello, Steve. I froze, half a hot pocket hanging out of my mouth. What? Your presence has been acknowledged. You are now under level 2 observation. The hell does that mean? Silence. Google? Nothing. Hey, Google? My Google Home just turned off. Now, I don't know what level 2 observation is, but I sure as hell didn't sign up for it. I did the only logical thing. I unplugged every smart device in my house. I tried to go to bed early, but I couldn't stop thinking about the red folder. I left it on my kitchen counter, unopened. I didn't even want to look at it. But around 3 a.m., I woke up. Something felt wrong. My bedroom door was open. I never sleep with my bedroom door open. The hallway outside was pitch black. My breathing felt too loud. And then, I heard it. A whisper. Right next to my bed. I rolled over so fast I almost fell onto the floor. But there was nothing there. Then I saw it. The red folder. It was sitting on my nightstand. I was 100% sure I left it in the kitchen. My heart stopped. I reached out with one shaking hand. I flipped the folder open. There was only one piece of paper inside. It read, "Why did you take this?" I threw the folder out my window. I barely slept. I spent most of the night staring at my bedroom door like a lunatic, waiting for some faceless dude in a gray hoodie to pop in and whisper corporate secrets at me. When my alarm went off at 6:30 a.m., I was already awake. I forced myself to get up, shower, and drive back to work, because unfortunately, capitalism does not care about paranormal workplace trauma. When I pulled into the warehouse parking lot, Jerry was waiting for me. Not in the break room, not in the aisles, in the parking lot, hands on his hips, staring at me. I rolled down my window. Morning? Jerry walked up to my car, leaned in, and sniffed the air. Then, in a voice way too serious for 7 a.m., he said, "You touched the red folder, didn't you?" I gulped. No? Jerry sighed. "Steve, where is it?" I threw it out my window last night." Jerry grabbed my wrist. His fingers were ice cold. "You need to listen to me very carefully," he said. "You can't just get rid of it. It's part of the system now." I laughed nervously. Okay, cool. Super normal thing to say." Jerry didn't laugh. He just shook his head. "If you don't find it before the end of the day, it will find you." My stomach dropped. "You're joking, right?" Jerry didn't answer. He just turned and walked back inside, leaving me alone in the parking lot, with no idea what the hell was going on. I sat in my car for a full 10 minutes before I could force myself to go inside. Jerry's words kept rattling around in my head. If you don't find it before the end of the day, it will find you. What the hell does that even mean? Was Google outsourcing their HR department to the supernatural now? Was this some next-level algorithmic haunting? I stepped into the warehouse, half expecting the red folder to be waiting for me at my desk, maybe with a little post-it note that said, "Nice try, Steve." But it wasn't there. Everything looked normal. Jerry gave me a knowing nod as I walked past, but otherwise no one mentioned anything. No whispers, no alarms, no gray-hooded men. For a brief moment I thought, maybe it's over. Then I opened my locker, and the red folder was inside, neatly placed, like it belonged there, and taped to it was a new note. "You cannot escape documentation." I slammed my locker shut so hard that 2 nearby employees flinched. Nope. I went straight to Jerry. "Listen, man," I said, holding back the urge to scream. "I don't know what's going on, but I think I'm being harassed by corporate paperwork." Jerry just sighed. "Yeah, that happens." "That happens?" I hissed. "That happens? Like it's normal?" Jerry rubbed his temples. "Okay, calm down, bud. Let me ask you something. Did you, at any point, read what's inside the folder?" I hesitated. "I mean, I opened it, but it just asked why I took it." Jerry's eyes widened. "It spoke to you?" "Well, no, it was a note." Jerry let out a breath. "Oh, okay. That's not so bad. What's the bad version?" "The bad version is when it starts giving you tasks." I frowned. "What kind of tasks?" Jerry leaned in, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Red folder tasks." I stared at him. "Do you just make up creepy phrases to mess with me?" He ignored that. "Look, you need to complete whatever the folder asks of you. If you don't, it'll escalate." "Escalate? How?" Jerry just gave me a long, tired look. "Steve," he said quietly, "how much do you like having bones?" I did not like the implications of that question. I spent the next hour pretending to work while my brain tried to process the absolute nonsense that my life had become. Eventually, I caved. I went back to my locker, slowly opened it, and pulled out the red folder. I opened it. This time there were 3 pages. The first one was just my name, Stephen Carter. The second page said, "Task 1, move the box." "What box?" I muttered. As if in response, the overhead lights flickered. I turned around. A single cardboard box sat in the middle of the warehouse floor. It hadn't been there before. I swallowed. "Okay, fine." I walked over, grabbed the box, and started looking for an empty shelf. The box was surprisingly heavy. When I finally found an open spot and slid it onto a shelf, I turned back to the folder. The second task had appeared. Task 2, close the cabinet. "What cabinet?" And then, a loud creak. I turned. A filing cabinet at the end of the aisle was wide open. I definitely hadn't touched it. I took a step forward, my hands sweating. The inside of the cabinet was wrong. It was just black. No files, no shelves, just endless darkness. and I swear to God, something inside it moved. I slammed the drawer shut. The moment I did, the third task appeared. Task 3. Smile for the camera. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. I slowly turned toward the nearest security camera. The red light was blinking, watching. I forced a wide, nervous grin. The moment I did, the folder snapped shut on its own. I nearly dropped it. The overhead light stabilized. The air felt normal again. I took a long, shaky breath. It was over. At least I thought it was. Until I heard my name over the warehouse intercom. "Stephen Carter, please report to the sublevel. Immediately." Sublevel? There was no sublevel. I looked at Jerry. His face had gone pale. "Steve," he said carefully, "do not go." The intercom crackled again. "Stephen Carter, report to the sublevel now. Your employment depends on it." Jerry grabbed my arm. His fingers were ice cold. "Steve, don't listen. If you go down there, you won't come back." My stomach dropped. I had a choice. Ignore the voice and leave. Go to the sublevel. And then, I felt something in my pocket. I reached down and pulled it out. It was a new note. It wasn't from the folder. It was handwritten. It simply said, "Do not trust Jerry." I stared at the note in my hand, my pulse pounding. Do not trust Jerry. Jerry, the same guy who had warned me about the red folders. The same guy who had literally grabbed my arm and told me not to go downstairs. I looked up at him. His face was tight, his grip still firm on my sleeve. "Steve," he said, his voice deadly serious. "I don't know who put that note in your pocket, but you cannot go to the sublevel." I glanced around the warehouse. Nobody else seemed to care that my name had just been called over the intercom. Nobody even looked up. But then something weird happened. The intercom crackled again. "Jerry." Jerry flinched. "Release the employee and return to your station." Jerry's fingers unclenched. His face went blank. His arms dropped to his sides. "Jerry," I asked. He just walked away. No words. No resistance. Like a program executing a command. The intercom crackled one last time. "Stephen Carter, proceed to the sublevel." I should have left. I should have walked out of that warehouse and never looked back. But something inside me was itching now. I needed to know. I made my way to the back of the warehouse where the industrial elevators were. I'd never seen them used before. Everyone just moved files by hand, aisle by aisle. I found one open, waiting. The inside was wrong. Instead of normal elevator buttons, there was just one. A black button with no label. I hesitated. Then, before I could chicken out, I stepped inside and pressed it. The doors slid shut. The elevator dropped. Fast. Too fast. My stomach lurched. The walls vibrated. My ears popped. The screen above the door showed no numbers, just a loading symbol. I was still descending, for too long. 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes. I braced myself against the wall. How deep did this thing go? Then, with a horrible jolt, the elevator stopped. The doors slid open. I stepped out into a graveyard of servers, row after row of old, outdated machines, ancient computers, rusted filing cabinets, floppy disks, even typewriters. Everything looked abandoned, forgotten, except for one thing. A single desk in the middle of the room, and on it, a red folder. Of course. I swallowed hard and stepped toward it. The second I touched it, every monitor in the room flickered on. My own face stared back at me from every screen. And then, a message appeared. "Why did you disobey?" My breath hitched. I just wanted to know what's going on. The screens glitched, the lights flickered, and then the monitors started playing videos. Security footage. I watched as I arrived at work yesterday. I watched myself talking to Jerry. I watched myself find the first red folder. And then, I watched myself get into my car and drive away. I frowned. Then another video started. Today's footage. I saw myself walk into the warehouse. I saw myself talk to Jerry. I saw myself open my locker. I saw myself take out the red folder. I saw myself look at the new tasks. But there was one problem. That wasn't me. I stepped closer to the screen, my skin crawling. It looked like me. It moved like me. But something was off. The way it tilted its head. The way it never blinked. And then, I saw myself leave. Another me. Walking out the warehouse doors. Getting into my car. Driving away. But I was right here. I wasn't in my car. I was in the sublevel. A final message flashed across the screens. There cannot be two of you. I stood in the sublevel staring at the footage of myself leaving the warehouse. Except it wasn't me. It was something else. Something that looked exactly like me. And it was already gone. A cold sweat broke out over my body. My chest felt tight. My legs shaky. I needed to get out of here, but as I turned toward the elevator, the screens flickered again. This time, the message was different. You have been replaced. My stomach dropped. I bolted toward the elevator, slamming my hand against the button. Come on. Come on. The doors slid open. I jumped inside. But before I could hit the button, the screens in the sublevel lit up one final time. Every single one showed my own face. But this time, the other me smiled. The elevator doors slammed shut and I shot upward. The ride back up felt even longer than the ride down. By the time the elevator stopped, I was ready to sprint out and never look back. The doors slid open, and the warehouse was empty. Not everyone's gone for lunch empty. Abandoned. The shelves were bare. The lights were flickering. Even the break room was stripped clean. No coffee machine, no snacks, no Jerry. I walked through the aisles, my footsteps echoing in the silence. Everything was wrong. I reached the front entrance and shoved against the doors. They didn't budge. I ran to the windows. The parking lot was gone. The entire warehouse was surrounded by blackness. Not darkness. Nothing. Like the world had been deleted. Like I had been deleted. I grabbed my phone and opened Google Maps. My location wouldn't load. I tried calling 911, no service. But then, my phone buzzed. A notification from Google Drive. New document created, Stephen Carter, archived. I stared at it. The word archived sent a chill down my spine. I tapped the notification. A single text document opened. It contained one sentence. The duplicate has taken your place. I dropped my phone. I don't know how long I stood there before I heard a voice behind me. I told you not to go. I spun around. Jerry. But something was different. His skin looked off, like a badly rendered video game texture. His movements were glitchy, his head twitching every few seconds. His eyes were solid black. You shouldn't be here, he said. I stepped back. Jerry, what is this place? This is where old data goes, he said. This is where the system keeps the mistakes. I swallowed hard. I'm a mistake? Jerry gave a slow, eerie nod. There can't be two of you. One of you had to be archived. My mind was spinning. I need to get out of here, I whispered. Jerry's head twitched violently. His voice came out distorted. Your position has been filled. I bolted. I didn't know where I was running. The warehouse aisles stretched infinitely now. Rows and rows of file boxes, ancient computers, floppy disks, old data, all neatly stacked and forgotten. And then, I saw it. A red folder, sitting on a table in the distance. A sign above it read, Last Chance. I didn't hesitate. I grabbed the folder and threw it open. Inside there was only one instruction. Delete the duplicate. I don't know how, but I understood what I had to do. I reached into my pocket. My phone was still there. I opened Google Drive. The document was still up. Stephen Carter, archived. At the top, there was a trash icon. My hands were shaking. I tapped delete. A pop-up appeared. Are you sure you want to remove this file? I pressed yes. The warehouse shook. The lights flashed. Jerry screamed. And then, everything went white. I gasped as I found myself standing in the parking lot. The warehouse was back to normal. Employees were walking in and out like nothing had happened. My car was right where I left it. I checked my phone. Google Drive was empty. There was no archived file. I looked down at my hands. They were solid, real. I was back. But then, my phone buzzed. A new email from no sender. The subject line was blank. I hesitated, then opened it. Inside was one sentence. Your deletion request has been processed. And beneath it, a link to a Google Doc titled, Jerry, Archived. I stared at it for a long time. Then, slowly, I locked my phone, got into my car, and drove away. I never went back to the warehouse, and I never clicked the link. Final status: employment terminated. Would you like to leave a review?